Hey y'all, it's Renegayde, and it's time to get real because for the final time, we're going to be spilling some reality on RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 7. But before I do, let me bring out my co-host. It's Bonnie Tyler's most painful lucky cow herself. It's QuackrrJack.
Oh, hi. Yeah, thank you so much. Don't ever compare me Bonnie Clyde anything again. Thanks.
Oop, my bad. Well, Jack, it's no question that UK7 is going to go down as not only like the current worst season of Drag Race UK franchise, but perhaps even one of the most poorly received seasons of all time, wouldn't you say?
I don't have to say it. Everyone knows. The producers did that. RuPaul did that. The
Right.
queens are unfortunately just victims.
I was gonna say it's easy to narrow down its faults, right? Such as like the lack of the synergy amongst the queens, the incapability of the editing staff to create an interesting or even cohesive narrative this season, and the unexplainable judging decisions that clearly favored some queens and left others to fall by the wayside. But today is not a deep dive into the season because Lord knows we'd be here for hours. Instead, we're going to be saying KK bye to UK7 by trying to at least rectify some of the season by doing our best to rejudge this whole hot mess train wreck from start to finish. Now, obviously, this is going to be the opinion of both myself and Jack collectively here, so it's possible that you may have your own opinion and it may differ. And to that, we both say, not only are you wrong, but you're also misguided. But no, really, you're welcome to have a difference of opinion. Just you're welcome. Also, tell us in the comments below. But we're all adults here. Let's keep things civil, and let's go ahead and go from here. We'll have to preface this as well too. Be prepared because it took us like 3 or 4 times to solidify this, and I think I'm the happiest with this version that we made. But I'm not sure if there's really any way to get a super entertaining result of this season, to be honest. So I could see everybody having a completely different opinion here or there. We definitely have a few shakeups here, and we did our best when it comes to rejudgings to assume some skills here or there. It was hard to do, but I think we kind of did the right thing. Wouldn't you think, Jack?
I would say so for the most part. I mean, I know some people are going to feel very differently, but I think we took into consideration more than just Rue's favorites. So at least we did that.
Well, let's go ahead and get it started
Already made the
here.
season better.
Right? I mean, it's already better, and it hasn't even started yet.
Right.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. And that brings us to our season premiere, the Brit Gala, where they'll show off a signature look atop the signature tiny pink staircase. And they'll also answer questions from the VIQs. And on the runway, the category is Queen of Your Hometown.
Okay, so this was marketed to us as well on the show that it was mostly a look kind of thing. We were looking at who had the best looks, and in the show they were like, and you'll do a quick question or two. So on that, we're going to not focus so much on just the questions as what was done on the show. And when we're really looking at the looks, you have to look at who had the best looks of the queen of your hometown and their signature iconic look on the staircase. So right off the bat, Bones. I mean, come on. Bones came through with one of the best entrance packages I think we've seen in a very long time. She had a very fun outfit on the red carpet, and then her hometown look, that puffer jacket, everything. That is quintessential why she should be in the top. Page 3 came through with the really strong looks in both. The printed on, the hat scenery, and just the silhouettes that she used were so much fun. And that tie outfit on the red carpet, great. And our final pick, Select's Addiction. Selecta had probably the best look on the red carpet the whole time. It was beautiful. Her look on the runway maybe wasn't the strongest of all of them, but I think when you really take into consideration everything she did, especially with that red carpet look, it's clear to see that she should get the flowers for that. That being said, our winner pick did go to Bones because she did have the strongest package in our opinion.
Absolutely. And I do think while the questionnaire does play a little bit role here and there, I just want to comment the fact that the way that they played around with Select's addiction and tried to make her seem crazy for her comment when you look in the back and Bag of Chips is laughing, y'all are crazy. Like, clearly it was funny, you just had to kind of understand the humor and the terminology she used, right? But that brings us to our bottoms, and initially, our bottoms for this episode were Nyang Bella, Pasty, and Terrace Mongardi. And we do agree with two of those bottoms, two of those being Pasty, who clearly had the worst runway package of probably everybody here, unfortunately. And unfortunately, she also did have one of the more awkward Q&A sessions as well too, so we threw her in the bottom because of that. Terrace as well had that unfortunate situation where her and Plane were kind of going back and forth with each other, which was very awkward. Unfortunately, it was probably the most off-putting moment from the whole Q&A segment, so we do have to place her here despite having some okay looks. I just don't know if her looks made enough sense to keep her out of the bottom. But we're actually going to disagree with the third bottom here. It's not going to be Neon Bella. I'm sorry. There's no way we're sticking her in the bottom for this. There's no
Oh
way. She
no.
deserves it. For us, personally, third bottom would be Elle Vosk. And she easily has two of the worst looks here on the runway for sure. That runway look for sure needs to just be burned because you just get it even close to a match. It's just going to set up in flames because it's just that kind of cheap. But like it was just, I don't feel her looks were nearly as good enough to put her anywhere close to the top, even despite winning it. And she did have some, good banter with Plain Jane here and there, but her runway looks no, 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 no. I will say though, I don't think her runway looks are bad enough to put her in the bottom two for this episode. I do think the bottom two has to be Pasty and Terrace Mongardi. They will be lip syncing to Von Dutch by Charlie XCX, and it doesn't even matter because there's the Lucky Chow twist this episode, and guess what? Passy's gonna get it because they voted for her on the show. She'll probably still get it here, so no elimination, whatever. At least our season premiere begins with the right winner and the correct top three and correct bottom three. um, so that takes us to our first elimination episode, and that's the Rumble in the Jumble Design Challenge. And based on a Jumble sale, they will make iconic and upcycled looks from the leftovers of the past seasons. And Patsy again will get to assign the stalls, which means season 1 will go to Neon Bella and Terrace, 2 will go to Bonnie and Clyde and Elle Vosk, 3 will go to Bones and Sluck's Addiction, 4 will go to Katrin Feelings and Patsy herself, 5 will go to Chai Tea Grande and Sally TM, and 6 will go to Page 3 and Viola. And for this episode, I think the tops were mostly correct for the most part, other than I would say probably one queen. We do have Bones again in the top for sure. She definitely deserves her place in the top for that what she did for that yoga mat. Just the way she was able to upcycle it and make it into the classiest lingerie I think we're ever going to see. Definitely deserves a shout out. And Sally TM easily has the best look on the runway for sure. It's a well-made concept. The patterns are amazingly well put together. It's just so clean looking, and this is easily Sally's high point of the season is this look. Now, as far as the third person in the top, we did disagree with what the judges initially had here. We're actually going to go ahead and stick Terrace in the top 3 as well because, as far as I'm concerned, Terrace had a very clean look. She looks really cute, and I fail to really see any other outfit that I would really put up there. Maybe Celexa, but I think Terrace definitely deserves a little bit of a rebound from her, stumble that she had in her first week. But that brings us to the bottoms for the week here, Jack.
So for our bottoms, no one's surprise, we included Bonnie and Clyde and Elle Vosk. I think it was very clear to see that Elle Vosk got a lot of love and favoritism this season, and so did Bonnie. And I think what was really crazy about this was I think the majority of people agree that those two had the worst looks of the night, and it wasn't even close. And they were from the same recycled season stuff, which is kind of just interesting. But our third choice was Pasty. We kind of came butting heads about who should be in the bottom, but we decided at the end of the day, Pasty's lack of really coming back from what she did in the first episode in the way that Terrace did in this episode would warrant her being in the bottom 3 as a warning, hey, you need to be there. But we did put the bottom 2 as Bonnie and Clyde versus Elle Vosk. And these two queens both had terrible outfits. As much as anyone wants to defend Elle Vosk's outfit, it was torn apart pieces of tarp into a boa that was interesting. And then it was just a piece of fabric wrapped on her body with little pieces of shards of the tarp over it. But it was very reminiscent of Nicole Paige Brooks. Just a terrible leotard. So, those two end up in a bottom 2 fight off of a lip sync to Heartbreak by Freemasons and Sophie Ellis Bextor. And shockingly enough, we chose that after watching the finale episode, Elle would lose the lip sync to Bonnie and Clyde, meaning Elle is now the pork chop of the season and no longer Pasty.
Imagine this first big goop and gag. It feels very correct. Bonnie and Clyde feels like she'd be able to give a serviceable lip sync, whereas Elle clearly showed that she. I don't know if she gets nervous. I don't know what the issue is here, but that final lip sync was not that good. And I do think we both think that Bonnie would take her out. And wow, we're already in for a very interesting shakeup here. And I can't wait to see how many people hate us or how many people agree with us. This is kind of the starting point of the intrigue for us here. But let's go to episode 3, because that is our Battle of the Brats Girl Group Challenge, and the 11 remaining queens must write, record, and choreograph verses to the hyperpop Brat-inspired song, She Ate That. And Pasty is here, and she will now take the spot in Bones' group, aka Hotline X, that Elle is no longer filling. And on the runway, category is Cuddly Wuddly.
Generally speaking, everyone did pretty well in the performance. There were a few standouts, though. And when you're looking at it, initially, we have Page 3 versus Bones. That was the original matchup of who's going to get this win. And we agree. These were the two standout stars in their group. But the person that we decided to put in the top spot, who wasn't there and actually was in the bottom that we were confused by, was Neon Bella. She sold out. So much charisma, so much charm. She was so entertaining to watch the whole time. We thought she definitely deserved her place here in the top 3. But ultimately, we agreed that Bones deserved her win here. And so Bones does get another win, meaning she has 2 badges this early in the season.
Bones is front running already. That leads us to our bottoms, though. And for this, it seems like it was pretty clear who should have been in the bottom, who ultimately was in the bottom of the show again. Young Bella, not deserved. Chai Tea Grande, I don't think deserved. She might have been slightly low energy here and there, but I don't think she just really deserved that spot. And then Viola, I could see her being in the bottom, not because of anything she did, but everybody else did really well in this challenge. And I feel like maybe her styling in the challenge, and as well as maybe her verse, kind of stood out a little bit more in like a negative direction. Not that it was bad, but it does deserve maybe a little talking to. Also, she did wear that Five Nights at Freddy outfit. She does deserve some talking to on the main stage.
That was a great outfit, I still think.
It was a great outfit, but it does deserve a little bit of the costumey thing. If you want to have that critique, this would be a great time to do it, because that spider that she made the first round did not deserve that hate that they gave her. But that leads us to the people that we think are actually in the bottom to this episode. And one is a girl who I don't know how she avoided elimination here, and that is Sally TM. She is easily the most awkward in this whole situation, and we could laugh here and there that, yeah, she was playing up a comedy role here or there. I don't think it was playing. I think she was just...
It wasn't.
It was a lack of just, unfortunately, the ability to really move on beat. And despite her winning the first challenge here, she really did bad to the point where she probably should have been in the bottom here. And then as well, just based off of how she did in the finale, I don't think there's any way to avoid that Pasty would not be able to get past the girl group challenge. I would love to see what she would do for a verse, but just the dancing part, I just don't see any way that she'd be able to handle the choreo. So that's why Pasty and Sally Tam will be our bottom 2 for this episode. They will be lip syncing to Sound of the Underground by Girls Aloud. I don't think either of them really fit this song, to be honest. So I think it's probably going to be one of those eliminations based off of track record. Sally TM has a win in this universe already based off of Rumble and Jumble, so that'll keep her safe. Pasty will no longer be the pork chop, but she will be our second eliminated queen of the season. Takes us to episode 4, where in this episode they will be overacting in Mother Tuckers, a 3-part miniseries set in the world of 1980s erotic fiction. And to make things easy, Viola is just going to swap spots with Elle and be in the first group. And on the runway category is Ab Fab, Night of 1,000 Sweetie Darlings, which will still go down as the worst runway category of the year. And yeah, I mean, as far as everything goes here, I do think the tops were relatively correct. And to be honest, I think it's going to be Viola. She's proven here that she's one of the few people that kind of come in this with a little bit of acting experience here and there. I think she would be good at playing up a character. There's just no way that she would flop in this kind of situation. She doesn't seem like the kind of person that would do bad in acting challenges. But really, the top two in this episode were Bonnie and Clyde and Catherine Feelings. I don't think there's really any way kind of around that. But in our opinion, and in this universe, we're not giving the win to Bonnie. We're actually giving the win to Catherine because I think Catherine, especially, really showed up and showed out in this challenge. She had a lot more role where Bonnie had a lot of sections where she was kind of by herself and was able to kind of, flourish and do her own thing. Catherine really didn't have that. She kind of had to stand out within all the rest of the actors in the group, and she was really leading that third group. And she was probably one of the few people I was actually laughing at in the challenge. So, in this universe, Catherine, Feelings, congratulations. You are a winner. You are getting your first win in this challenge.
All right, the bottoms in this scenario are a little different than what we had on the show. Obviously, we had Chai Tea Grande in the bottom on the show. We decided that that was the correct placement for her as well. It was really lackluster energy until that very last line, and I think that's really important. Now, we also decided that there should be a bottom probably from each group. And from the first group, we really felt like Selexa's inability to take the advice to stop looking so much away from the camera and not looking so much into it made it seem like she wasn't really ever getting the note or listening. And we think they would have definitely judged in a way that would have possibly ended up with her in a bottom situation here, especially with the changes of the cast. But I think we agreed that she would be in the bottom of that group, and so it was fair that she was placed here. And then finally, to some people's shock, and I mean, this will be upsetting for some of you, but I hated Sally TM's acting, and I felt like it wasn't real acting. I felt like she just wasn't doing well. I couldn't really understand her. I think she just got by with, like, basically favoritism here, and I really think she deserved a bottom placement in this spot. And because our bottom are Chai, Sally, and Select's addiction, we had the bottom two being Chai because of her constantly not really showing out from the pack and kind of ending towards the bottom, and Sally because that's the second time in a row that Sally ends up in the bottom in an episode. So Select's addiction gets a pass. She's a bottom three, but not the bottom two. So Chai and Sally TM will be lip syncing to Pearls by Jessie Ware, and we believe that Chai would take out Sally. As we've seen Sally lip sync, it's not the best. We've seen Chai lip sync. She definitely has some moves, and I do think this would light a fire under her, and she could easily take out Sally TM in this moment. So we have to say goodbye to Sally TM in this episode.
The fact that we're eliminating Sally like 2 episodes early, I already know people are going to hate us. But,
Yeah.
she's, if we're really looking at it, she had a win and then had two really bad performances. I could see you save her from one. You can't save her from both. Let's be real, y'all. Episode 5 and the SS Tickety Boo talent show. And we now have two queens who didn't actually show off their talents here, currently in Nyong Bella and Viola. And based off some research here, Nyong Bella has stated she was planning on doing a burlesque number, while Viola, she hasn't revealed anywhere what exactly her intended performance was, or at least anywhere that I could find. And just judging based off of like her Queen of the Universe performance, which if you haven't seen that, maybe I should link that in the comments below here because, oh my god, go watch it. It's so good. The combination of live singing and violin playing, I do think that would likely be her thing. Because obviously she's gonna go the Thorgy route with the violin, but I could see her including the live singing as well as an added twist. So I think she would have put on a show. But the runway category is having it large.
So first off, let's talk about the first thing that we all agreed on. Terrace Mongardi gave us the funniest and most entertaining talent show performance. That is, without a doubt, a cold-hearted fact. I don't hear anyone say anything about that. Now, here's where things get a little sketchy. We decided that Viola would be in the top because we've seen her do the live singing and violin playing, and she's a master at it. She's amazing. We've seen her on Queen of the Universe, and her combination of that skill, she's definitely getting a top placement here. And then, finally, we decided that Page 3's original song and live singing was actually better than everyone else's choices here of their talents. The only person in which this could really be swept up for, if we're looking at it, was probably Catherine Feelings, and we decided Page 3 took a risk with the live singing, so she is our other top placement. That being said, we decided at the end of the day that Taylor Smongardi should get her recognition here for having the best performance, and therefore we gave her the badge on this episode.
And I feel a little shady about that. This was probably one of Slexa's standout moments from the season, but it feels like she was overshadowed. I don't know if we could really give her a top placement here. I mean, if it's your style, that's cool. I'm looking at though, like at this whole list of like things of what we would be having going on now, and with Young Bella included, which is part of the reason why I kind of think maybe she was eliminated, is she's also doing a burlesque performance. We'd have 3 burlesque performances that night. Wouldn't that get a little old after that? I just don't think Slex's performance would be as novel with that many other burlesque performances. So feels like her and Young Bella and Katrin would probably be safe in this universe here. But our bottom 3, if you haven't guessed based off process elimination, will now be including Bonnie and Clyde, who she kind of had like the no talent, where it's like, let me do like a review about every other talent show and then not actually do anything at the end. I'm I'm okay with the meta nature of whatever you want to do here, but like I don't know. It just didn't give as much as the others did, and I don't know. I don't know. But let's be real though. The bottom 2 was very, very, very clear, sadly, and that would be Bones for her original song, which was hardly even audible, and just sadly she gave a very lifeless performance, to say like this was one of her huge stumbles of the season. There's no getting around that. And the other person that really stumbled this episode would be Chai T. Grande. Unfortunately, her burlesque performance as well as the dumpling just never really went anywhere, unfortunately, and it's just hard to not see these two in the bottom. This will be something else that comes out, very a theme that happens much throughout the season, that just two people just do too bad and you just can't get away from sticking them in the bottom 2. Ultimately, they will again lip sync to Spectrum, Say My Name, the Calvin Harris remix by Florence and the Machine, and again, Bones will be staying. Chai T. Grande, unfortunately, will be eliminated at the same spot she was last time. But that takes us to episode 6, and we get our Peter Pansy Rusical, and I assume most of the parts would likely be the same, whereas, Viola seems like she would probably make a good Wendy, whereas I could see Young Bella just kind of getting stuck with the role of the first mate, because it's kind of the leftover role. I mean, I can't even really remember what was their name. I was going through, I was like, Slug, Skunk, I don't know, Smeg. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. But it just felt like a role that was meant to be in the bottom. And on the runaway category is Battle Axe Warrior Queen. So that takes us to our tops for this episode. And I think they would likely be the same as far as the roles go. There's no getting around Page 3 dominating this whole Rusical. She did one of the best roles I think that we've ever had in a starring part in a Rusical. Even not a starring part, just a part in a Rusical. Regardless, Page 3 did amazing. Bones, as well as Granny the dog, was another huge standout role. And this also might be seeming a little controversial, but based on the fact that in this universe, I mean, Viola's there. I don't see a world where her sounding as good as she does in a recording, where she wouldn't just end up being, ultimately the Elle Vosk kind of in this sort of situation, right? So it does feel like Viola would, again, do really well in this challenge and possibly be a high. So much so to the point where, I mean, if we're going to give away 2 wins, and the fact that Viola has been in the top for the last 3 episodes, we're just going to give Viola the win right here as well, too. So it will be a shared win between Page 3 and Viola. They both get their first win in this episode. But that takes us to the bottoms, Jack.
Okay, this was a very difficult to try to figure out how we were going to do this, because, again, there were some people who had different roles, but we ultimately decided that when we were watching it, we felt Katrin Feelings did worse as the Croc Destroyer than Tayrus Mangardi, so we put her in the bottom over Tayrus. I think that was a pretty fair decision. I don't know if everyone else agrees, but I was more entertained by Tayrus than Katrin. Additionally, it was mentioned before, Neon Bella is going to be in the bottom as Smeg. I see it less as her being in the bottom because of this part, but maybe more so I think she would have trouble doing all of the choreography perfectly, and it would just be another situation where someone maybe just isn't as good, because almost everyone did a great job in this musical. It's just we're kind of nitpicking here, right? And then finally, Select's Addiction was our third bottom placement. I know, shocker. But Select's Addiction's Stinker Bell was all right, but there were just a couple moments where we felt maybe it could have gone further. Maybe she, with the ability to kind of hand out the rules, she didn't succeed as much. But that being said, we actually saved Katrin Feelings, and we decided that Neon Bella would be versing Select's Addiction in the bottom two. And here they'd be lip syncing to Don't Rain on My Parade by Shirley Bassey. And this is where things got really difficult. But when it all came down, said and done, we do believe that Celexa would probably give off a slightly better lip sync than Neon Bella to this musical classic. So we had to say goodbye to our young queen, Neon Bella, who will be forever missed.
That was a hard one, but
It was the hardest thing we did, I think.
like it's hard to get around because she already has kind of issues in lip syncs with remembering lyrics. It feels like this would be the stopping point for Young Bella here at this point, but you know who knows what will happen in the future. But that sadly brings us to our next episode without Young Bella. Our Snatch Game, aka Snatch Me Out, where the queens try to compete for the love and affection of both DJ Jordan North as well as RuPaul. And Viola is now our only queen not here from the original airing, and we've since learned that she would have chosen to do Patti LuPone, which was infamously done by Plasma on season 16 of US Drag Race. And also we have on the runway, the category is Holiday Ho Ho Ho's Christmas Couture.
So based upon the performances we saw, I think it's hard to say anyone else deserved to be in the top over Bonnie and Clyde and Katrin Feelings. They both showed up once again in this comedy challenge. It was very funny. I think we all agreed that this was a great time, and one of them definitely dominated the Snatch Game overall. That being said, we also put Viola back in the top because we do feel like her Patti LuPone would probably be extremely funny. She is known for the singing and music, and she would probably be able to give us a very solid performance. Whereas some of the other girls, we kind of were like, they all fell in the middle, so she is our third top. But our winner ultimately had to be Bonnie and Clyde because Cher as a chair was hilarious. We all agree. Like, it was a great performance. Yes, it was a bit controversial as a choice, but Bonnie and Clyde definitely takes it. Even though her outfit on the runway wasn't the most impressive, they don't use runway that often to decide anything. So Bonnie and Clyde
since when does that matter?
Right. Not on this show.
Yeah, Bonnie Clyde definitely deserves the win here, and I would say out of everybody left here, Slexa probably gave the next most safe performance. So in this world, yeah, I do see Slexa probably being safe, which sadly means Bones, Page 3, and Terrace will be our bottom three. And I mean, I'm not even really going to get into Terrace here because there's no way, unfortunately, no matter what I wanted to do or tried to do or what we thought up here, there's just no getting around Bones in Page 3 being in the bottom two in this episode. There's just no way to fairly carry anybody that would probably bomb this challenge this far in the competition. So there's just no way getting around it. Bones as Liam Gallagher and Page 3 as Alexa were two of the, sadly, we'll go in the lexicon of some of the worst performances that we've had on the Snatch Game. So, sadly, Bones will have another moment here where she falls into the bottom against Page 3. They'll have their Tainted Love lip sync by Softshell. And I do think, based off of everything that happened here, we're in agreement. Bones did win the lip sync, sadly. Page 3, I think, was slightly hindered by her costume a little bit, and it was just, it didn't feel like a song that she could really perform as much as she wanted to. Now, maybe if the song choice had been a little different, maybe we'd have a different result here, but, Page 3's first bottom will result in her being eliminated, and I don't want to do this anymore, Jack. I'm leaving. Bye.
All right, bye.
Okay, I'm back. And that takes us to episode 8, the Hun Makeovers. And if you haven't been paying attention at all, we could just go and recap right now. Our final six here at this moment would be Bones, Bonnie and Clyde, Katrin Feelings, Slex Addiction, Taris Mongardi, and Viola. And on social media, Viola did post her makeover look in this situation, so we're just going to swap her out with Elle. She'll have Elle's person to redo the makeover on, and that takes us to the results here, which, I mean, I don't think there's really any arguing with what would probably happen here in this situation. Bones wins easily, without a doubt. This is one of the best
Congratulations.
makeovers that we've had. Easily, her and Charlotte Church are so good together, so good. Slex Addiction also will take a spot in the high spot, just because, I mean, obviously another flawless performance. Poor Celexa gets overshadowed by Bones at every turn here at these last couple episodes. But that takes us to one person who would be in the top, and then the others will be in the bottom. And Jack, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over for the rest of the evaluation here.
So, looking at who's going to be the bottom, it's clear that we kind of had to pick between Bonnie and Clyde, or well, I'm sorry, we had Bonnie and Clyde and Katrin automatically in the bottom. We saw what they looked like. It wasn't great. That put us to this idea of who should be in the bottom over Taris Mongardi and Viola. We did see Taris Mongardi's look, and the looks were fun. The makeup on her makeover was a little rough. It was very highlight heavy on her. But, you know, they didn't even say anything on the stage to her because they didn't want to upset her feelings, right? That being said, we saw Viola's looks. When we look at Viola's looks, she was doing a more of a mask kind of suit, but make it femme kind of thing with her, with a very light blonde, platinum, almost white hair kind of thing going on. And given that she doesn't always have the best makeup, in my opinion, and I did not necessarily like all the materials on this, we decided that Viola would be in the bottom three this episode over Taris, and Taris would get the top three placement, if you want to call it that, because her looks were at least more distinguishable and more fun than Viola's. That being said, did it really matter? No, because Bonnie and Clyde made the most atrocious, disgusting decision ever on this runway and just ruined anything that you could ever call a look ever again. This split idea of mask femme, literally anyone could do it better. They did it, I think, first on season 7 in the US version, and those didn't look great, but somehow she decided, let me fuck it up worse. So she has to go home. We've seen this lip sync play out, Push the Button by Sugar Babes. Bonnie and Clyde is sent home. Katrin sends home Bonnie and Clyde because, guess what? It happened already once. We saw it. Katrin won.
Easily. Yeah, sorry, Bonnie. This is the furthest you can go is 6. You're not getting past this makeover, girl. That takes us to our penultimate episode, and you know what that means. It's the Karma is a Bitch Roast Comedy Challenge, and on the runway, category is English Country Garden.
We kind of feel like this episode had a similar outcome as the last one did, in the sense that we felt like it, just including Viola over Al, we didn't think we were going to get much from her. And so it would still end up with Bones in the top placement getting the win, with Slex Addiction as our second placer. And that being said, the other three would end up in the bottom.
And out of those three, I don't know. This feels like this would be a moment where Viola might choke. Something about the live portion of it actually having to, do it in front of people, and also the comedy part. I don't know if it would necessarily work as well as her getting lines and like reading them, kind of thing. Her having to come up with her own material on it feels like it's slightly going to be maybe that line that I don't know if she could do as well. So it just feels like delivery wise, everything like that, she might really stumble in this kind of challenge. Whereas we did see between Katrin and Taris, neither of them really did all that great. Taris had a few funny jokes here, but a lot of her hindrance was the fact that she decided to memorize everything. Whereas Katrin kind of memorized everything, but I don't know what she was doing. She was channeling Bonnie Tyler for some reason, and then a few of her other jokes just weren't landing. Yeah, it was not a great performance for Katrin here. So sadly, Katrin will be put in the bottom 2 here with Viola. They are going to be lip syncing to Jessie J's Mama Knows Best, and just kind of based off of track records, based off of just everything involved in this lip sync, I don't think Viola is going to do bad here. especially in her look. There's nothing really holding her back like there was in the Five Nights at Freddy lip sync that she had. So I feel like she'd be able to easily stand up to Katrin here. I don't feel like this would be anything where she would flop too bad to the point where she wouldn't, be able to have a reasonable performance. And if we're going by track record, this is Katrin's second bottom, Viola's first. It feels right to send Katrin home here. So sadly, Katrin Feelings will not be making the top four. But that does leave us with a final four heading into the season finale. And let's go over it right now. We have Bones sitting with 4 wins. I mean, we can't deny it. 4 wins. She does have 2 bottoms though, so I mean, she has done it really great, but she has had some stumbles along the way, just like she did on the real show. The greatest kind of disparity here is Sex Addiction coming into this finale with no wins, unfortunately, but only 1 bottom. So she's done solid. She had one flop moment, and had it not been for Bones really just eating these last kind of episodes up, she would have had a win here or there. Probably 2, actually. Terrace Mangardi is also a much deserved spot here in the finale that she should have deserved, with 1 win from the talent show, 1 bottom from the very first episode. So the fact that they stuck in the bottom the rest of those episodes, looking at you judges with crazy eyes. And finally, Viola goes from the second out to top 4. She has 1 win, 1 bottom, tons of high placements, and that takes us to our final challenge here, where they will be writing, recording, and performing verses for the original song Money Shot, and their final runway category will be Epic Eleganza.
Based on the challenge, the song was forgettable still, but I think everyone showed up. I do think if we had to choose, we would find that at the end of the day, the challenge didn't seem to matter as much as the placements. And based upon everyone doing a decent job, it was kind of looking like we were guaranteeing a Bones top 2 finish. Now, originally we were discussing this, and we decided Celexa would be the 4th place guaranteed. She did not have a win. She really did not stand out too often on this season, so she was immediately out. We were considering if there should be a top 3 lip sync as opposed to a top 2, and in which case Viola and Terrace would both get the chance. But we could make cases for either or when we were trying to decide this top 2. And originally, I think we were wanting Terrace to be in the top 2, and you can definitely make a case for it. But because of all the high placements, we officially came up with the idea that Viola would end up in our top 2. I know going from second out to literally second place is crazy here, but on a season where she wasn't getting played in her face so badly by the judges, I do think she had the possibility to do well in this competition. I also think it would have continued her villain storyline, and we would have seen her getting all the way to the top, as we've seen before. And that just leaves the final lip sync, in which case Bones still wins against whoever she goes up against based on track record and performance. So we see a Bones win still, no matter what, the result is the same.
Mm-hmm. No matter which way you shake it, ultimately Bones is just the winner of season 7 UK. And honestly, I feel like our season, like you said, has so many more potential for some fun TV moments, because we have Viola, who's lasts all the way to the end. We get a lot more of this whole rivalry between her and Katrin, and the two of them can fight over Terrace's love and affection, like like Viola wanted to in Untucked. And although we also still can't carry page 3 as far as we want to, there's still more of a chance here where at least we could start the season with a little bit of like Bones and page 3's friendship, since they're going to be in the top 2 together now, and basically vying for the title in the first episode. And then eventually they have their snatch game slip up, they leave, and in the sadness of her friend's elimination, Bones rises to the occasion and dominates the rest of the competition. And Slexa is there too. Sadly, even more irrelevant this time, but I do think it's fair to give Katrin, Viola, and Terrace their time to shine, because much better of a result of a story than the inverse, And While we do lose El Vosk super early, Sally TM ends up as kind of a shock early elimination as well too. Did they really bring that much to this season on their time with the show? There could be an argument for Sally, but I don't think Elle brought that much with her time on the show. Like in comparison to what young Bella and Viola could have given us, I think not. you know, so despite the season having the correct winner, I feel like our season, despite the steamroll for Bones, is definitely balanced out by her stumbles. She's literally the British Simone now. Jack, I think I'm ready to put the season to rest officially, though. Did you have any
Officially.
final words here?
My final words are justice for Neo Bella, justice for Tayrus, and justice for Viola. I think there's a case to be made of Katrin possibly making it to the finale as well, but after everything was said and done and everything shook out the way it did, it was hard to find a point in which Select's addiction should be in the bottom and go home. So I think ultimately that has to decide the love triangle, if you will, between the two girls fighting and the two girls kissing.
We love that, though. This would have been some. I wish I could see this happen because I already know it would have been so much better than this crap we got. But as the season and this year comes to a close, I'm excited that, we're going to get to some more end of the year content. I'm thinking a few different planned videos. We already have them planned. We'll do some ranking videos. And we still have all of Canada Season 6 to talk about, as well as the finale of Espana 5 to look forward to. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Drop a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to not miss out on any future content. And comment below with how you would judge UK7. But until next time, and on behalf of my co-caster QuackrrJack, this is Renegayde signing out. But remember, keep spilling that tea, y'all. KK, bye!